Okay, we're at 3 after the hour. I'm going to go ahead and get started. Thank you for joining us today. We're here to talk about application portfolio management and the technology portfolio management function within APM. So some of the information we present today may have forward-looking statements. We're going to talk a little bit about what's coming in the future with TPM and APM. So as always, we have to give you this safe harbor notice because we may talk about things, but until it's delivered and released, there are no guarantees. We can tell you what's on the roadmap and what our intentions are, but it's not a absolute guarantee that it'll make it. So during the session, there will be Q&A. Please use the Q&A. You'll see there's chat, and then you'll see another thing called Q&A. Please use that to ask your questions. I got a team of my peers on with me, Molly and Scott. They're here to answer questions behind the scenes, some bigger questions or questions that you want answered live. They'll present them live at the end of the session. So we can do Q&A, and we'll actually have some discussion at the end. This session is going to be recorded, and it's going to be shared on the ServiceNow community. It takes a few days processing, maybe a week, and we'll have it up. After the session ends, if you will, you'll be given a little short survey. If you wouldn't mind, we really appreciate it if you'd fill it out. It helps us to build new sessions and do a better job in presenting this kind of information to you. So my name is Mark Casto. I'm a Principal Product Success Manager in the Strategic Portfolio Management Group. That's the group that builds the APM product. And I'm here to help our customers get value and achieve new heights in their APM implementations. Our objectives today is to introduce you to the technology portfolio management facilities within APM, and so that you can start where you are. Hopefully you have some of the foundational things as an application inventory, but how can you build towards technology portfolio management? What is it in general, so that you understand what it is, how it works, and the idea is to make sure that if you're not ready now, you at least can put it on your roadmap to enable this really valuable capability, aligning your technologies and understanding your obsolescence risk of those technologies to your application portfolio. So the agenda for today is talk about technology portfolio management, past and present. You may not know, but what we'll be talking about today, there's been a feature in APM for quite some time, for several years now, called Technology Portfolio Management. Just this year in May, we had a store release of a new version. We're going to cover both versions in this session because both of them are viable. One might be better for you depending upon where you are and what facilities you have available to you. And we'll talk about all that. Again, our goal is to make sure that you're set up for success with this. We're going to talk about how you evaluate your systems for TPM discovery success. What if you don't have SAM Pro? You're going to see one of the pieces that we work with. APM is really strong about utilizing various other applications on the platform. What if you don't have SAM Pro? That's one of the other applications that we really have strong dependencies on. Can you do it? Can you implement TPM? The short answer is yes, you can. We're going to show you how you do that today. What's in the future for TPM, and then Q&A. So before we get rolling, if you would, we'd like to understand where you are. So Does your company have a technology currency or an obsolescence program? This would be a program where you understand what technologies are being used and deployed, and you track the vendor life cycles to see if something's out of support, out of extended support, or at the end of life, and you try to take action against it. We'd like to understand how you're doing it. And we'll just give it a couple of minutes here for the poll for everybody to respond. Okay, looks like we've got as many responses as we're going to get. So we are looking at, a number are just beginning 40%. 20% are using TPM. That's fantastic. Some other commercial tools, and 27% of you are using home-built systems, Excel, SharePoint, etc. That's great. That's really great. So now on with the show. Let's talk about how you can use and what is technology portfolio management. So first part of technology portfolio management, and the assumption is that you have a managed portfolio of business applications in APM. One of the next steps in maturity is to take that inventory and begin to align that inventory to the technologies that these systems, enterprise systems that are in your business application inventory, align the technologies that they're comprised of. There's some cases where you don't do this. For example, SaaS, although SaaS can be represented as a single software. So we could talk about how you might represent SaaS. But the first part of this is to establish a technology bill of materials. And we do it at the deployment layer. So you conceptually, or rather abstractly, you have a business application. Application services represent deployments of that business application. That's where we capture this information, because each deployment could be different and having a different set of technologies. We want to be able to understand that and manage that. Utilizing a catalog of software, hardware technologies, and publisher manufacturer life cycles, this is how we can go about identifying obsolescence. And we provide a means to create actions in the form of a business case, or specifically a demand in ServiceNow. So to understand the function of this from the CSDM, as hopefully everybody knows, CSDM is the backbone of APM. And here it is in the CSDM model. We have the business application, we have the application service. That's that deployment of a business application. And then down here, product models. Product models are what we associate at the application service level to represent the technologies that are in use. And it's both hardware and software. So it's not, software tends to get more focused, but we also do hardware. So the original TPM used software models. Our new TPM, we're taking a different approach. We're going to look into that. In the case where you have available SAM Pro, discovery, and service mapping working together, you have the opportunity to automate this. Think of it as TPM discovery. So it can't do every single bit of it, but what if you could get 70, 80% of your applications aligned to their technologies, utilizing the information that's already there? Again, power of the platform. So the full automation story, how would that automation work? We start with discovery. That finds that horizontal CMDB population of CIs, the infrastructure CIs. So discovery is it identifies and adds hardware, software CIs to the CMDB. In APM, we have our inventory of business applications, and in between, we create our application services. We use service mapping to associate that discovered CI, discovered infrastructure. We map it to the deployments of the application so we understand what is this infrastructure serving, this database, this server. These routers are forming a network that these servers are tied to. All of these, we understand these dependencies by using service mapping. And that rolls in that manner, we roll up to the application portfolio, the alignment to the actual physical world, the physical construction of these application services, these deployments. At the same time, software asset management, hardware asset management are working with discovery. As this discovery goes through the software discovery phase, it identifies the software, it also identifies the hardware models, but identifies the software installed on servers, and that gets normalized. We then utilize TPM through the product models, the product software products. We utilize that to create this alignment, create this technology bill of materials. And then we use demands in SPM. If you have full SPM, you can use products, projects, epics, etc., as well to drive activity. So why a new TPM? We've spent the last couple of years with a large number of customers implementing TPM. And as we worked with these customers and help them, we've seen some themes that called for a need for a new and stronger product. First off, we wanted to be able to introduce full automation. We want to have a job running in the background that just maintains as much of this information as we possibly can. And this is where discovery, service mapping, and SAM Pro are available. There are possibilities, again, that we'll talk about towards the end of what you can populate if you have other systems for asset management. And we can describe the tables that have to be populated. So there's a possibility of doing it without these facilities. But of course, why wouldn't you want to do it all on the same platform? It's efficient, it's powerful to have that. We wanted to improve our performance. We wanted to provide audit capabilities when lifecycle determination is not exact match. So understanding and compiling the vendor life cycles for thousands of products is a gargantuan task. It is a huge challenge. Our content library provides it, but even so, we still are not able to capture every single life cycle. We have a mechanism so that we can update the life cycles and maintain the content library. But every day there's new systems, there's new versions released. All of this stuff has to be kept up to date. And so within the new TPM and even with the old TPM now, if you've updated, you will get the capabilities where we use heuristics to try to find a better match for life cycles. We're going to talk about this a little later, but understand when you use these heuristics, we want to be able to provide an audit capability so you can understand that we didn't find an exact match, but here's the best life cycle we could find. Also, we needed to support the new EA workspace and the next experience UI in these things. So differences between the new TPM and the original TPM, The new one no longer uses software models. That's crucial. There's some reasons behind it. Mainly is that software models can be versionless. And what we're concerned with here requires unequivocally that we speak of versions of software. So a versionless software model causes us huge problems. There are some solutions using the full version, but it's just caused too many difficulties. So now we're using the software discovery models that come from the normalization. And again, we're going to look at this in detail in a moment. But we're using those software discovery models, which are normalized, or their first step in normalization of the installed software on the servers. Lifecycle dates are cached. So rather than querying them real time when we try to render them for you, we're going to query them at the time that we do the discovery job. We cache them. So when you go to display it or make some sort of analysis, it's cached in a table that's maintained, but it's cached, so it's very fast. We wanted to improve performance. We use association of software product to better support alignment with technology reference model, TRM. We're going to have a session later on this summer about TRM, so stay in touch with us for that. But technology reference model, real short, is that's where you identify your technology standards. And one of the key things that it does is it uses software product versus the software versions. It actually uses both. Again, we'll have a TRM session to talk about that. We also maintain the server installation information. This was a key missing element that we were told about as we worked with other customers implementing TPM. We identify the technology and it's associated to the business application, the application service, but what server was it installed on? Well, we don't know. We threw that information away as we did our processing. Now we keep it. It's right there. You can work with it. You can make to-do lists or changes, and you can specifically identify the servers that need to have an upgrade, etc. We associate everything. In the previous version, we would make suggestions, and you had to go pick which ones applied. Now, we've taken a reverse action. And this was under advisement from customers that said, I'd rather have a list of too much than a list of nothing because somebody didn't go in there and do their analysis. So now we apply everything, and then it's the IT owner's job to go narrow down that list and remove any technologies that are not applicable. So we're taking an opposite approach in that. Currently, it's not well suited for SAM customers, but there is new development coming that is going to make it much simpler, and will easily support non-software asset management customers. It does not recognize CI relationships. This is really critical. Your application services need to be mapped. That does not mean that they have to be top-down mapped. Traditional top-down service mapping is difficult and it could take quite a bit of time. There are multiple methods for doing service mapping: tag-based, dynamic CI, dynamic application service, which basically takes those CI relationships and creates the proper mapping records. Again, we're going to look at the data models so that you better understand this, but don't take that as a serious impediment, because every application service, as soon as you can get there, should have at least some rudimentary association and service mapping. That's how our system works the best. If you want to use incident suggested or the incident impacted services, you need to have mapped application services to do that. So it's pretty critical, not just for this, but for other facilities as you work across the platform. Can you still use the original? Yes, you could use them both at the same time. The original is not going to be updated. We're going to put all of our work and everything into the new version, but the original is still out there. And we'll see some key visual differences when we get into the demonstration. We're going to do live demonstration on this today. So the new APM technology data model, quite similar to what we had before. We start with a business application. Business applications have one or more application services, and we talked about service mapping. Here's the table that's key. Service CI Association. So the Service CI Association is a table. When you do service mapping, it's a nice flat table that lists everything that's associated to a particular service. We just simply look in this table for the servers. I say infrastructure CI is here. Really, this is servers that we're looking for. So we get the servers off of anything that is a computer type. So servers are computers, laptops are computers, and we're probably not going to find laptops, but servers, Windows servers are servers, Linux servers are servers, servers are computers. So we start at the computer level. We look for the software installations. Those software installations are normalized into the software discovery model. At the computer, at the hardware level, there's already an association. If you have hardware asset management, there will already be an association to the hardware model. So we pick that up. We take that information, this discovered software discovery model, which has a normalized version of the publisher, the product, the version that was found, the edition, and we use that information to create a TPM discovered technology record. Upon the creation of that record, it takes the information and creates a TPM technology lifecycle. This is where we go grab the appropriate life cycles and we cache them. Those are tied to a software product and essentially tied back. We take the version specific life cycles and we cache the dates back over here. So GA date, end of support date, end of extended support, and end of life. We have those all readily available. And our analysis lets you identify risk by looking at any one of the end of support, extended support, or end of life. The original semi-automation model. And so the original model, and we'll look at it in demonstration, there was a button called Manage Technologies, Manage Technology Models at the business application. You could go use that, pick an app service, tell it to fetch its software models, and it would basically go do a similar analysis, and it would create a list of suggestions that we see here. So start off business application, pick an app service. It, depending upon what kind of app service, it would either use that CI association table, or it would crawl the relationships, the CI relationships, and find servers. From the servers, we have software installation, discovery models. We used, the engine used an API from SAM to find software models, and we created a list of suggested software models. The IT owner, the SME that's running it, they would then pick which ones should be aligned, and there you go. You have the app service aligned to various software models, and hopefully linking up to life cycles. So again, there were some issues. We'll talk about how that works in the later part. So how are software publisher life cycles determined? So here we are, we're talking about it. Both the original and new TPM publisher life cycles are sourced from the software product lifecycle table. That didn't used to be the case 4 years ago. We changed in the Quebec because there was changes to how software asset management worked. So now what we have to do is we have to run essentially a query called SAM, Software Asset Management API. In that query, we use the publisher, that's the manufacturer. We use the software product. We use the version we use the edition, and we use something called the full version. That's actually the build number that's found as a part of discovery. And by using those elements, we can form up a query and pull in a set of life cycles. It includes potentially general availability, end of support, end of extended support, and end of life. For the various products, manufacturers are all over the place about how they publish life cycles. So you may only have GA and end of support, or you might have GA and end of life. It just varies. Microsoft has a tendency not to publish end of life. They publish general availability, end of support, end of extended support, but you don't find the end of life. So it's just all over the place, but we provide you the best that we can. And using those elements, you can still do your obsolescence. You just need to accept and translate into support. That's a bad issue right there. Even if you're on extended support, you want to be getting off of it. You want to be making plans to upgrade, that sort of thing. So we can provide you with that information. So TPM implementation requirements review. The implementation of a new TPM, as I mentioned, it should be fairly low effort, but we do have certain expectations. First, you've got to have an application business inventory. CMDB needs to be in place with discovered hardware, computers, servers. The server computer software installation needs to be populated. Software discovery models need to be populated, and normalization processes. Your application services need to be mapped both to the business application and the infrastructure. So this is that Service CI association. This is really a key table. And if you're evaluating success of TPM and using it, this is one of the key tables that you want to look at. I'll show you how I build views so that you can examine the success of a particular, is there anything to find out there? And so we'll talk about that later on. And valuation script, actually, and just doing it with a view. One of the things I'm going to show you today is there's toolkits been posted on the community that has all of this information for you. So installing new TPM, the original TPM, it's installed with APM. It's going to be turned on as soon as you install your APM plugin. The new one, though, is part of a store release. So it's actually embedded as part of the enterprise architecture workspace. By installing architecture workspace, you should get it. There's actually two plugins. So to be certain that you're getting everything, download, go and request, download and install the application portfolio management enterprise architecture workspace, and also activate technology portfolio management. Those two things give you the new facility. So again, we want to review the new technology flow. So as a foundation, we have business applications, we have our application services, they're mapped to the infrastructure, specifically the servers. We have content library, we have software products, and the version-specific life cycles. Either manually, you can do it on an individual business application, manually doing this analysis. But preferably, we've got a scheduled job. You set it up to run once a week, maybe once a month, whatever, or you can run it manually. And it'll run it against all business applications. That's really the preferred way to do it. As we said, we wanted to automate everything. So the TPM evaluation gets launched by, say, scheduled job. We start with a business application. For each application service, we get the servers, we examine software installations, we examine the hardware discovery models. And we create first a TPM discovered technology record, which references the software discovery model, the business application service, the server involved that we were working with, and then creation of that record through a business rule creates a TPM technology lifecycle. What this does, it's actually a performance thing because this record gets created by this scripted engine. Then a business rule takes over and it's asynchronous. So it goes out, picks up the cache lifecycle, finishes out the discovery while everything continues on. It's pretty efficient. It's very, very fast. So the original, let me go back to that just to make sure we've got it all. So business application, app service, get the servers, find the software discovery models. As a part of each server, we're picking up the hardware model as well. And we'll see that when we look at the data in a moment and look at it in a live system. And then we create discovered technology records paired with a TPM technology lifecycle, which is our lifecycle cache. So now the original, if you're not ready, you don't have the right facilities, you want to use the original, the way it's sending me automation flow work is IT owner would click manage technology models. Then they're presented with a list of application services and they select, right click and select fetch technology models. That starts the crawl, if you will. It gets the infrastructure CIs, as we saw, either via the CI relationships, or if it's a discovered or a mapped application service, it's going to use that CI associated table. It's then going to look at software installation, discovery models. It gets a list of suggested software models, and the IT owner, the SME running the thing, they have to go pick a set of software models and move it over to the application service to software model table. That the hardware part of it, it just, as soon as it finds the server, if it's got hardware, it automatically associates it. So that's the original flow. So how do you determine, is there data available to discover? What's the model to follow? And I talked about a couple of things using I'm going to demonstrate actually using a database view that I developed as an example. You could, to some extent, use CMDB Query Builder as well. In this case, the model is business app service to infrastructure. So I'm skipping how we connect. It's either the rel CIs, that CMDB rel CI, so CI relationships, or it's the service CI associations table. Software installations, software discovery model, which I'm using a dotted line. It's it's by a query that we find the software models. The software discovery model has a direct reference to the software product. Software product has references on the version specific life cycles. We can use that information there to know. So in all cases, again, we're using a query. Publisher, product, version, edition, full version is what allows us to pick up the correct life cycles. So now we've talked about it quite a bit. Let's look at it for real. Let's get into the system and do a little bit of demo. So this is a Utah system that I'm using here. I'm going to blow it up a little bit so everybody can see. And first, let's start with the original. This was the original application portfolio management homepage. And you had technology portfolio. From here, you go to technology portfolio management. And what we see here is we see a breakdown. We have the business application. We have a list of application services. By the way, I have this P for production turned on, so I only see my production app services. And then for each application service, I see the software models and the hardware models that are associated with it. I also see projects and demands and even epics. If I had epics associated to this business application. So in this view, it's rather nice. I see the software, I see the activities that are ongoing. I could create a demand to address, maybe I've got this red line, I've got risk right here. I need to do something about it. So I could maybe make sure and put a demand in to upgrade SQL Server 2012 Enterprise. The other things that we're showing here is the risk evaluation. It's all based off of these life cycles. These life cycle views are showing us where we have the phases. So this phase is end of extended support, and beyond this point, it's end of life. The end of extended support occurred here. This thing's in end of life. Here's an end of support. So it's kind of yellow, the problem leading up to it. And here again, it's end of extended support on this model. So this gives us a nice visual. Beyond this, though, there was, you're kind of limited on the kind of things you can do. You can do one thing that is very nice. You could pivot this and look at it by software. Imagine you find out there's some sort of some vulnerability on Exchange Server 2016. Well, who's using that? Oh, I can open it up. I pivot. I look at it by software. And I see what applications are using Exchange Server 2016 or what applications are using R Server 2016. So it gives me a way to look at it from the software side versus looking at it from just the business application. So a pretty powerful view. We had some other views here, product classification, backlogs just going to show us those demands and projects, or by SDLC component. If you're running your connection from your business application to your application service by SDLC component, you would see it. I don't have any data in here that would fit that. And so I don't get anything back. So this is just in my demo system. So that is the original TPM where we started. Pretty powerful, but we're missing. If I wanted to know, I need to fix Glassfish Enterprise Server, where do I go find it? Oh, what server is it on? I don't know. I have to go looking around, digging around to go try and figure that out. So one of the things we wanted to do is improve that facility. Here is the enterprise architecture workspace. Starts off with a homepage view. At the very top, we have a set of insights. The insights are calls to action. These are things that you need to know about. The insights are extremely configurable. It's designed for you to configure the insights you want to see and need to understand. One of the key insights that we have here is technology portfolio. So this is the new TPM stuff that's in play here. So from this, I have technology portfolio insights, and perhaps I want to see 12 months out because I'm going to do budget planning for next fiscal year. What applications have got a problem? They have some sort of life cycle risk. I can view that list. Here's the list grouped by the application. So I see the applications that have a problem. I expand it. I see where it's installed, what server it's on. I see the product. I see the lifecycle dates in question. Here in the technology lifecycle entry, I can see the details of what version. So I have all of the information here at my fingertips. It's not fancy. We don't have nice little lines and all that. That is coming. That is one of the big features that's coming. It's going to be presented here in the EA workspace, but we felt it was more important to get something workable out. I can export this. I can turn it into a list of servers that need an upgrade. I attach that list of servers to a change and go implement a change. I can actually get work done with this. I can sort this by the product and filter it out by products. I only want to see the ones that are DB Server or Oracle DB, or maybe I only want to see ones that are Windows Server or SQL Server. I can sort these things out and understand them. So in some ways, this is even more powerful. At the front end of this, we show you we call it the earliest life cycle date. This is the earliest critical date that's causing you a problem right now, causing you risk. There may be others, but here's the critical date you need to know about. And that's the date that we're driving that insight from. So back over here in Insights, I look at it from the application perspective. That's great. Maybe I just want to see it in more detail at the server side. So here's the 4 servers that got a problem. I see the server and I see the software installs on it. So again, I can take action. It's just pivoting that same data set, but it gives me ways to work in different ways. Just depends upon what I need to know. Maybe I want to know it at the app service level, etc. Here's that software view again. I can look at it by the software view. Sorry, a little bit slow. So here's the software view, and I can see all my installations. Again, pretty great view. I can export this. I can work with it. I have export to list export right here. I'm going to export to Excel, and I can really start to work with it, take action. So new features that are coming, new facilities, we're going to be able to create demands. And some of the things we're talking about is the ability to apply that list, add that list to the demand, actually add some of this information or link it back to a view so that not only do we create a demand, but we have the context behind it. Just while we're here on the enterprise architecture workspace, want to have a couple of pointers here. This is just a portfolio overview, business application capabilities, info object, etc., portfolio health. Again, all of this is highly configurable. Here's things that need attention. We talked about the life cycles, how sometimes you may not get a correct life cycle. So one of the things here is the technology portfolio audit. This tells us where we got a full version heuristic match, meaning we had the full version, but we didn't get a direct match. We had to use a heuristic to find a proper end of life for this. And so it tells us which technology life cycle, which install, basically leads us back to the installation and the application we're working with. So we can approve those and manage those. Maybe we want to ignore them. So let's talk a little bit about, and by the way, here's the all product view. So let's talk about how we might execute this. So if I go to, sorry, I've got a little bit of slowness. I think it's probably competing with the video here. So as I go to my business application, sort by business application, I go to my attendance payroll system application. I can run my TPM analysis with the new TPM quite simply right here. You see in the upper right, I can click the ellipsis and pick update TPM data. That has launched the job behind the scenes to go update those tables that we're looking at. But it only does it just for this application. If we look over here in the portfolio view, and all of our workspaces in ServiceNow, we're putting in these portfolio views. Basically, it gives you links to the tables that you want to work with. But one of the things we have here in the technology portfolio management is the logs. So here we see where I kicked off that job. The business application was attendance and payroll management, and it ran in like, 1/10 of a second. So ran pretty quick. This one where it's empty, this is where the scheduled job is run. So if I kick it off, there is no business application listed. It's running against all business applications. And so what happens is you could come in here, review this log and see if it's running, see what percentage it is it completed, did it fail, and there's an issue, etc. So you can work with it there. So that's one of the important things. It's kind of a administration facility, but it's important to know about when you run this thing. So the other way of executing this, you'd have to be admin, and I am admin. So under scheduled jobs, system definition, scheduled jobs. If I go and locate the populate TPM discovered technologies and life cycles, I can execute this job, or better yet, I can set up a schedule for it. I'd have to put it in edit mode. But I can set up a schedule for it and have this thing run. Or I could kick it off now because I know some things changed. That actually started one of those jobs. It's going to unfortunately run pretty quick. So I don't think we'll catch it in action, but we could go back, we can try to look at the logs. See if we can get it to refresh. Yeah, and it ran for, what was that? Less than a second. 3/10 of a second. So that's the new TPM. That's the facilities that we have for it. Again, it's growing. We're going to have the Gantt view. We're going to have more risk analysis and more export capabilities. You're going to be able to create demands, take action type of things. Before we leave, I want to make sure that everybody's enabled on all possibilities. So we'll take a look at the original technology portfolio management. With it, you go to the business application. There was no job for it because it's 50% a manual activity. You click the manage technology models. Here, it will show you the application services. So in the application services, I can fetch product models. It's going, and I tell it I want both hardware and software, and do force a check all installs. Basically, go back through all the hardware, check all the installed software. It does try to cache its results so it can be efficient, because it could be time consuming. Here, demo data, I'm going to let it just run quickly. When it's complete, I drill in. And I see that I have 30 associated or suggested software models. I see some were ignored because I've run this before. There's some are new, some were ignored by me previously. Some are going to show up as associated. Actually, none of these are showing up as associated. But I could pick Windows Server and maybe SQL Server Standard here. And I can now go and associate them. It's going to add to this application service software models. So the final thing I wanted to demonstrate for us is under database views. And again, this is covered in detail in the toolkit up on the community, but just to show you how we would use it. The TPM Discovery View is what I've called this one. And basically, you see, I skip the business application, but I start with the application service. I follow through that service CI association table. I get the computers. I look at the installs. I look at the discovery models. By running this, I can see how much I have out there that's potentially discoverable. I have 32 records where I could find something. And I see the product is SQL Server, Power BI, etc. I see the display, shows me some of the version. And then I see these actually over here will be the discovery models. So this lets me know what I might expect when I go to run that TPM engine. You see there's only 32 records. That's why the thing ran in, and it wasn't 3/10, it was 3/100ths of a second. So it ran really fast. We've seen it do a 2,000 to 3,000 business application system. Probably ran about 30 minutes. So it's something you can run overnight to analyze your whole system. So that is our live demo.
Hey, Mark, got a question.
Sure. Great time for it.
All right. Can you integrate other EA tool platforms, aka PlanView, Orbis, with the enterprise architecture feature of TPM?
In other words, I guess the question, what enterprise architecture like this, the technology alignment, I mean, it's all in tables. So the short answer is yes, you can integrate. You would have to create some sort of export out of the appropriate tables into those remote systems. There are no integrations that we know of. We do know of one of our competitors that has something similar. They're actually using a broken data model. They have their data model wrong, and they're getting some bad analysis because of that. So, but that's not what we're on here about today. So short answer is yes, you can integrate. So with the demo today, that's kind of, I mean, we're at the point for questions. So other questions, other comments, other things you'd like to know.
I don't have anything yet in Q&A. And one thing that does come up is, we have that slide that has differences, from the old to the new. And we had this in our other session about what is the old versus what is the new. And I had, old TPM versus Utah TPM.
Right.
Or I guess I shouldn't say Utah. It's probably more Tokyo and Utah TPM.
Yeah. Store TPM and original TPM.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah. So the key difference is we don't use software models. We're using the discovery models instead. We stop there and we cache everything. Some of the features that we've got to implement that are on the roadmap is the ability to manually create records in that data model. Right now, it's designed to work well with Discovery, Service Mapping, and SAM Pro and pull that information in. But if you want to do it manually, you have to go manipulate some ACLs and work with stuff. So it's a little bit difficult to work with. That's something that we're working on for the next release, or maybe a fall release. There'll be releases in August and in November. So we want to be able to support not only manual entry of this, because honestly, you're going to get 75, maybe 80% at best. That's how much running in the data center. But things like SaaS, things that are in containers. So we don't have a way to examine containers and pull out software versions out of containers right now. So those are things that we're going to be working on and improving, because the idea is to make this as automated as possible. So if you think about modern CI/CD pipelines and how modern infrastructure configuration is done, we could read the YAML files, we could read container configurations and understand what software is part of that container and running in various containers, and look at the maybe Kubernetes OpenShift configurations and figure out, hey, this is an application. Here are the pieces that go together that make it up, and pull that in. We're not there yet. That's a goal that we want to get to, but it's going to take us a year or so to gain that understanding. I will say here now, we would love to have design partners that want to work on that, because we really need to get some real world feedback on this stuff, on how to do this. So other questions, other thoughts. One of the things to talk about would be integrations. So if you don't have SAM Pro, you can populate, you could directly populate that TPM discovered technology and TPM discovered lifecycle tables. That would be a very simple way to do an integration from some other asset management system. That's a possibility. We're trying, again, we're going to be working to improve that. For the original TPM, the same thing applies. You need to populate really just the application service software model table. You'll have to create software models and the life cycles, but you just populate that one app service to software model table. So that's how you would do it if you don't have Discovery, SAM Pro, all of that working. One of the other subjects I wanted to touch on is SaaS. What do you do about SaaS? Oh, you got a question, Molly?
I do have one more question. So Sean, sorry, is asking about you had 3 options when you went to your business application, and then you did the manage technology model button.
Yep.
You had when you retrieved those logs, you had 3 options, and they're only seeing 1 for hardware. Is that because you have something else installed, or what?
Yes, that is because you don't have software asset management being recognized. And
is it SAM or is that SAM Pro?
SAM Pro.
SAM Pro, yeah, I was going to say it's probably SAM Pro, right? Yep.
Yeah, you got to have SAM Pro. So the hardware could be identified. It doesn't require ham Pro, but this option for here doesn't show up unless you have the SAM Pro.
Okay. There are 12 questions. I'm not sure. Diane, you might want to type something in. You said something about there are 12 questions, and question and answer. Please type something in the Q&A to let me know what you're wondering.
Yeah, well, the questions right now have been answered, right? A lot have been answered online. Typing answers.
There are 12. Oh, okay. Oh, is there another Q&A tab?
No.
No, the answers are the ones that I've been answering, and I guess maybe that's what you're seeing. I'm not sure what you're seeing.
Yep. And Sean, I hear you. We one of the things we're working on is removing that dependency on SAM Pro, both in TRM and TPM. The new TPM doesn't require SAM Pro, but it can't do much without SAM Pro. It installs SAM Foundation, so the tables are there, but it the original TPM really expected SAM Pro.
Okay.
So there was a question, Sean, you were asking about cloud services. Yes, it would recognize virtual machines, cloud servers. If you're doing your cloud servers infrastructure as a service, you can get cloud discovery to bring your application discovery software. It's all about having something that's derived from hardware that has the installed software. But it is dependent upon discovery doing its job and populating.
Okay. You know, Mark, there was one here about, if I had my business applications, and it's from Diane, if I had my business applications already related to my servers, how best to do that? And I said to create your application services and have those mapped to your servers, and then map the business applications to the app services.
Exactly. That's pure CSDM. So these things won't work if you're not following CSDM, but the data model is business application. And you can see it here in this view. You can see the business application. It consumes application services. Those application services in turn are related by some means. Now, these are using CI relationships, but it could be dynamic CIs, it could be dynamic query CIs. So there's various options by which an application service can be mapped, but that's how it needs to be associated, because it's going to go from the business application to the application service. And from the application service, that's where it's going to try to find the CIs.
Okay, great.
So here's a list, for example, of the CIs that are associated to that app service that I was just on. So again, this is early on. We're looking for feedback. We want to improve it. The idea is to simplify it as much as we can. So we are around. You've got our identities. Send us your questions. I do encourage you to use the community. For example, there was something I did want to share with you before we got to that. I posted this a couple of days ago. Actually, I posted it yesterday. So this is where we'll be gathering not only these recordings, but information on implementing both the original TPM and the new TPM. So as we gather more information, as there's improvements, we'll be updating this article up on the community. It's under Application Portfolio Management, APM articles, Technology Portfolio Management Getting Started. And so I've got a copy of this deck that we used. I've got various descriptions, including a description of how you go about building that database view for checking your discovery success. So if there's no other questions, we really, really appreciate your time today. Thank you for joining us. And let us know what you find. Let us know how things go. We'd love to hear your experiences.
Thanks, everyone. Bye now.